Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Give me just 1 second. It's 1 p.m. Eastern time. We're just about to start. You give me 1 second, having a little bit of a technical issue here. All right, so let me go ahead and resolve, and I'll be right back. All right, we'll be getting started in just 1 second. Thank you for joining. Give me just 1 second here, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Okay, now. Oh, right. And let me go ahead and share here. Okay, so everybody should be able to see my presentation on the screen. Here we go. And thank you for joining. My name is Cesar Rivas, and I will be doing this month's merchant training for Sound POS. So thank you again for taking the time. Before we go ahead and get started, we want to make sure that we take care of a couple of housekeeping items here. If you have any questions during the session, please feel free to write in the Q&A section, and I'll respond. Well, I mean, honestly, I'm actually responding now throughout the session, just in case it's something that, it's pressing. So I'll be revising reviewing the Q&A session as we go along. All right. Also, this session normally takes about 90 minutes, but it could run up a little longer. But we normally take a 5 minute break at about the 1 hour mark. All right, a little bit before, a little bit after. The session is recorded, and then we normally post these on our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to go back and review that as well. And the primary purpose of this session is really to learn how to operate the POS. Okay, not so much going in depth as far as configuration, even though we are going to be looking at the configuration. All right. But primarily it's how to operate the POS. Okay. Um, to talk a little bit about, what resources you've got available. There is a support line, 24/7 support line at 888-263-5661. Okay. Um, should be able to see this screen here. Yeah. There's also an email support available, which is a support@soundpayments.com. Of course, the system also comes with the user guide on the POS itself, and then there's also a store portal user guide as well. Okay, the user guide for the POS is actually loaded onto the POS, so you can, and I'll show you in a minute where you can actually see that. Um, the store portal guide, normally we email it. We're going to make it available on the actual web portal as well, so you'll be able to see it. But for now, we're kind of fixing it so that the alignment is correct. We have, of course, these monthly group trainings. As you can see, today, April 8th, we're doing the third one of the year. These run usually on the second Wednesday of every month, 1 p.m. Eastern time. We also do have individual paid training. Okay, for that you need to contact your processor, your account executive, and they should be able to accommodate. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna try to get a hold of something here that I was having a little bit of trouble with the technology side at the beginning. So give me just 1 second. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So to take a look at the contents, just to overview, okay, of what we're going to be seeing today. First, we're going to be looking at your system components. So you may have different types of hardware out there. We have different form factors. You've got your countertops, you've got your handhelds, you've got also your kind of your crossover or hybrid where it can be used from countertop and also be taken on the road. All right, so we'll be looking at that. We'll also be looking at the software, what you've got available. As I said, we're going to be looking at some initial configuration, some functions that are, you know, industry specific. So not every function that I'm going to be covering today may apply to your system. Um, but again, this is a POS that's very adaptable and it can work across multiple industries. So I want to make sure that I highlight any specific functions for any specific industries. Okay. We're going to be looking at discounting at the POS, like, establishing sales, establishing discounts for special groups, like veterans and things like that. Also, how to modify your pricing. We'll also be looking at your customer database. There's a database built into the POS that allows you to store their personal data, such as name, address, phone number, even a birth date. Um, and within that database, there's a couple of features you can take advantage of. First one is loyalty points rewards program, which you can configure to determine how many points are generated by a sale, how many points you would need to redeem a reward. There's also a second component there within the customer's database, which is store credit. So you can actually provide your customers with store credit. You can determine, what the limit is going to be, and then keep track of, any expenses. Now, you can even use it for things like layaway. Maybe instead of giving refunds, you give store credit. Okay. And then we'll be looking at the reports, reports that are going to be on the terminal, and then of course reports that are going to be also on the web portal. And then finally, we're going to be looking at the sales screen. Okay. Um, and we're going to be running actually probably a couple of sales and show you some of the functionalities there, some of the things that you can do in terms of when you collect payment and so forth. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at your components. Depending on the type of hardware that you have, and then let me go ahead and switch screens over here real quick. Um, I'm going to show you again. You may not have the same exact terminal, all right, but you may have something similar. Okay. So for example, let me share this other screen here. Okay. Okay. So this is one of the models that we have. This is a countertop unit. Where is it? There we go. So this is a countertop unit, and this unit comes with two screens actually. You've got a large screen, which is your operator screen, and then you have a small screen on the back, which is the actual payment device. Okay. This device, for example, has a built-in printer, so you don't have to get a detached printer. You can attach a cash drawer to it. You can also attach a scanner. Even though it does have a camera that can be utilized as a scanner, it can be a little quirky, but we do offer ID scanning, for example, and the camera is not able to pick up ID. And in that case, make sure you're able to see that. What am I sharing here? Okay, so that's one type of unit. Again, a countertop type of unit. Okay. You may also have a handheld unit. So let me show you an example of a handheld here. Give me 1 second here. And by the way, if you do have, a countertop unit that has an integrated uh, payment device, okay, normally these units do allow you to attach a detached payment device. So, for example, you've got, a barrier that prevents you from utilize the onboard unit. You can actually disable that onboard unit and then utilize a detached unit. All right. So let me show you now what your typical handheld would look like. We got different brands. So depending on, what you're using. Let's see here, QD2. Okay, let me share the screen with you here. All right, so are you viewing that? Okay, so this is a handheld, all right, typical handheld that we offer, and it has a full version of the POS, by the way. Okay, it's not a watered down version. Normally, it just has an operator screen, and it's the same screen that's utilized for also collecting payment. These handhelds have the ability to take also, swipe, dip, or tap and pay, and they normally come also with a built-in printer. So it's an all-in-one device. Now, if you've got multiple units, you can actually mix a countertop unit with a handheld unit, because one of the beauties about our system is that even though everything is stored locally on the terminal, it's also connected to the cloud. So let's say that you have a mom and pop's restaurant. Your servers can actually take the order at the table, and then the customer can go to the counter and pay at the counter, for example. Or if you have a delivery type of business, I don't know, furniture store, your customers can give a deposit at the showroom and utilize a countertop unit to pay for that 50%. And then your delivery driver can have a handheld unit, which can connect to their mobile hotspot on the phone and then collect the difference once they make the delivery. All right. So they're all interchangeable. So these are the two types of units. I also spoke about a crossover type of unit. Let me share with you what that would look like here. Let's see here. I'm going to show you a different brand. Okay. Like I said, we've got multiple brands that you can utilize. Okay. Make sure that you can view this one here as well. Are you viewing? Okay. So this is what, as I said, a crossover because it does have two screens on it. It's got the operator screen and it has the, here at the bottom, and then it has a customer facing screen, which is the payment device. So it does have two separate devices in here. And it can be used for the countertop. But this one stays on a cradle, which charges it, and it's got a pretty long battery life. So you can actually take it with you, and if you need to use it on the road as well. And that's why we call these kind of a hybrid between a countertop and a portable unit. All right. So that's on the hardware side. Okay. On the software side, of course, you've got the POS itself. All right. Let me see if I can pull that up here. I'm going to share the screen of a handheld POS. Okay. Let's see here. Give me 1 second while it pulls up and let me show that you can see that. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to share um, my handheld unit here. And I apologize for security purposes. Sometimes I'll get knocked out and I'll have to relog in and all that stuff. Um, so obviously you've got the software that's loaded onto your terminal. That's another resource, right? So we saw the hardware, right? And by the way, our terminals also, our POS systems do support printers and kitchen displays, and they can actually be controlled either from a countertop or a handle. It doesn't make any difference as long as they're on the same network. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so you can see the screen a little better. Okay. So this is the software side, right? For the POS. Okay. And I wanted to show you, since we're here, where you can find the user guide. Now, this is again a handheld, so it's a little bit of a smaller screen, but you would go to settings, then you would go to about here at the bottom, and then you have the help menu right there. So it's going to pull up your user guide. You go to the index. So it looks a little small here. You can actually expand it if you wanted to on these guys here, right? And see what's going on. And then all you do is tap on whichever topic you want to see. So for example, you want to know about inventory, you tap on inventory, and boom, it takes you to the inventory there. Oh, actually, that's not the inventory. Sorry, I got fat fingers. Let me go over here and make it a little bit bigger here. Okay. There we go. So now you can see information regarding inventory. All right. It's only usually a couple of pages long, and you've got some graphics that go along with it. You want to go back, you go back to help. And again, so that's on the software side on the machine. Okay. And then of course you also have the software side on the web portal. I'm going to log into that right now. Okay. Now this is a demo environment. Okay. Make sure that you can see this here. Let me just pull up the screen. There we go. Let me log in here. And I'm going to use as an example today, I'm going to use a convenience store profile. Okay. And again, this is a another resource on the software side. So I'm going to pull up the store here. Okay. Micro, call it a micro market. All right, let me log in here. And this is, you should already by now have received the credentials so you can access this. Okay, this is your landing page for the store. Okay. And just so you're aware, and yours may look a little different. This is a more advanced version we're about to release. So yours may look a little bit more rudimentary, but it's got the same content. So you got four different graphs up here. These are not your reports, okay? These are just quick view graphs where you can look at your total sales by hour, by day, or by week, and you can choose your start date. Also, your total sales by configuration, like your product, your category, employees. And again, you can choose your own time frame and even do a daily comparison. Um, on our system, if you input the price for each product, and in addition, you input the cost for each product, you can also view your profitability and your gross margin. Okay. And on this case, for this graph, you can actually view it by day, by week. You can do a daily comparison and also by product and category. And then, of course, the fourth graph would be your transaction volume, which you can view by hour, by day, by week, do a comparison. And this way you can establish if you need to, your staffing and things like that, you can actually establish it that way. Okay. All right. So those are your resources. What I'm going to do today is, since we're going to be looking at configuration first, right? Some of the configuration stuff that I talked about, I'm going to show you both on the terminal and on the web portal, so you're familiar with both. Okay, let me just close out a couple of windows here. Boom. Okay. Go back to the terminal here. Now, just to clarify something as far as, how the data is stored between the terminal and the cloud. All your products are stored locally on the terminal. So this way, as you're ringing up an order, it doesn't have to go fetch it on the cloud. Everything is local on the terminal, right? It's going to connect to the cloud though if it needs to, for example, look for a customer profile. The system also comes with a gift card, so if it needs to look for your gift card balances and things like that, that's when it's going to search for the cloud. Also, when you're going to finish a transaction, of course, if you're going to pay with credit card, obviously it's got to go to the cloud to get the approval. But if you're not, it's still going to go to the cloud so it can record the transaction and it can update your inventory so that, the next person that comes in, if they go to a different terminal, that terminal will be updated as well. Okay. Now, when you make changes on the back end on the store, those changes may not take effect immediately. This way, you have a time to, if you need to modify them for any reason, you can manually make those changes happen though on the terminal. If you go to settings, you go to cloud, and then you go to sync, that'll update any settings that you created on the terminal, on the back end, sorry. And, oh, sorry, I pressed the wrong button there. Let me go ahead and connect again. Okay. I'm going to go back to the same place where we synchronized manually, okay, on the terminal, because I want you to notice something there here in that place as well, okay? 1 second while it comes up here. Okay. Let me zoom in again. So this is where we left off before I disconnected by mistake. So you'll use the sync button here to synchronize manually, but also you can establish how often this is going to sync with the cloud, okay, with the web portal. So right now I have it set for 5 minutes. You can do it every 10 minutes, or you can say, hey, don't sync automatically. This way it gives you more freedom to work on the back end before any changes take effect on the terminal. Okay. You can also establish how long to be alerted before, or how long before you're alerted in case that the terminal is offline. So here I have it set for 1 hour. So what happens is if we go back to the main screen here, when it's synchronized, you'll see that it has a little cloud with a check mark in it. If for some reason, and I have it set for 1 hour to notify me if it doesn't synchronize within an hour, okay, that cloud is going to change to red with an X. And again, you can adjust when you want that to happen. I have it set for 1 hour, but you can change that to 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours, or 24 hours. And that's just to tell me that the machine has been offline for whatever time frame I've established here. Okay, you can also see when was the last time that it was synchronized. Oh, because I actually do have the wrong date on here on purpose. All right. Ah, that's why I probably didn't see. Okay. All right. So that's in terms of your resources. Okay. So we're going to start off then with some configuration stuff here. Okay. And the first thing, of course, is we want to look at your taxes. All right. So if you're going to look at your taxes on the web portal side, you go here and you're going to go to maybe one sales taxes. Here we go. Okay. If you're going to do it on the terminal, you're going to go to inventory here on the middle right there, and then you have your taxes there. So let me explain a little bit how the taxes work on our system. Okay. Um, you have two components for the taxes, as you can see, taxes and then the tax categories on the terminal. And here you also have the same thing. You got your tax rates and your tax categories. Okay. What happens is you can create your different tax rates. Let's say that you want to segregate your local, state, and federal taxes. You want to separate those to get those separately, right? You want to make them separate, or you can combine them into a single one. And let's say that you've got some products that also receive a special kind of tax, like maybe alcohol or tobacco, and you want to make sure that you distinguish that one as well. All right. What you do is that you create the different rates, and then you combine those in different tax categories. Okay, same thing on the terminal. You can go to taxes to create the different rates. You can combine them in your tax categories. So I've got, as you can see on my end, I've got four different tax categories. My tax standard then activates my city tax and my state tax. And you can see that same thing here. If I go to tax standard, you'll see that it's got my city and my state. Okay. But then maybe I've got, tobacco products. All right. Now my tax standard is my default, as you can see on here. Okay. And actually on the terminal, you can see also tax standard is my default, right? You got this turned on here. But I'm also using the tobacco tax in some products, which has my city, my state, and that additional tobacco tax. Now, this is how it's going to print also on the receipt. So you got to make sure that if you create separate tax rates or what, if you create one, that the label you put on here is what you're wanting to display on the actual receipt for the customer. Okay, so if you don't want to segregate your different tax rates, then you can go ahead and put them all together if you wanted to for some reason. All right. It's kind of the same thing here. Your tobacco taxes has three different rates: your city, your state, and tobacco. Okay. Let me make sure that no questions have come up here. Pull that up here. Okay, I don't see any open questions here. Perfect. Okay. So that's the first part of the configuration. All right. The second part of configuration we're going to be looking at is your employee. So our system allows you to create different employee profiles with different levels of authority. So we're going to go first to the terminal and work on that there. Okay. So on the terminal, going back to the main screen, cancel. From the main screen, and you go back to the main screen by hitting that back arrow that's on the upper left-hand corner. You're going to go to maintenance, and within maintenance, you're going to choose roles. Okay. Now, if you've got a countertop unit, it's going to look a little different because it's a wider screen. So you're going to have, these on the left-hand side and then all the different authorities on the right-hand side. Because this has a narrow screen and it's a handheld, I actually have to tap on whichever profile I want to look at. So let's say the warehouse profile, I'll look at that. The first tab is your basic tab that pertains to the sales functions, right? Because this is a person that manages the warehouse, I don't have to give them any sales functions, so they wouldn't have anything to do with the sales screen. And then the authority tab kind of gives you more back office stuff, right? So nothing with a register, no, there are no sales there. If I go to reports, this person only has access to your inventory report. Okay. I go to administration, no access to any customer information. Inventory, yes. Products and inventory movement, which is what we use for updating inventory. On the maintenance side, no access there. Okay. We go to system. We got some settings, which again, this person cannot change. Time card, so they can clock in and clock out, but they can't look at any reports or anything like that. And they can't look at the profile. All right, so that's on the terminal side. If you want to do the same thing on the store portal, right? You're going to go to staff and look at your staff roles here. Okay, so we were looking at warehouse. Go to warehouse here. You can see more or less the same stuff. So I don't have any register here. I do have some reports, inventory report. Okay. I do have just a time card and then the log out ability. Okay. And here's all the authority that they have. So once you create the user profile, then you're going to go ahead and actually add the user. And again, you can do it on the terminal or you can do it on the back end. So stock rep is the one that utilizes their warehouse profile I just created. Now, when you create a user, the system will automatically assign a user ID that's the next one that is available. So it is incremental. So if you've only got, your default user ID, which is 0001 for administrator, and you add somebody else, they're going to be 0002. There's no way to change that. Okay. Unless you create dummy profiles to give them something like 0005. You'd have to create 002, 003, 004, and then maybe disable those. Okay. That would be the only way. Otherwise, they're always going to be incremental. The date of birth is actually optional. Unless you're selling restricted age products, it's not a requirement. If you are selling restricted age products, it is a requirement because when you establish a restricted age product, you have to establish the age for the customer, the consumer, and also the age for the person who's running the POS. Okay. Um, Passwords can be one digit. They're always going to be numeric, just like the user ID. So, it can be a one, make it easy. And then, of course, you will enable your POS profile, your employee profile. You can also require them to clock in before they have access to the POS. So what happens there is when they log in, you'll see that the clock in screen before they have access to any other of the functions on the POS. It's not a requirement either. And because most of the POSs, most of the terminals have a camera, you can even take a picture of the employee, and you can also generate a barcode. Okay. On the on this side here, okay, you've got, your stock rep, just like you do there, right? You can edit, delete, okay, look at the time card details. Okay, same thing. You can create a barcode or generate a new one. You kind of have all the same stuff. Now, this hourly wage and tax rate is just there for your reference. It doesn't calculate your payroll per se. It does store your number of hours worked, and that you can actually export here, export time cards. You can choose 7, 30 days, 90 days, choose your time frame if you want, and then export that in Excel, which is usually compatible with any payroll processing software or company. Okay. You can also view it on the terminal side. If you go to I'm logged in as the admin, so I can do that as the admin. If I go to this same maintenance screen, right, and you're going to go to, oh, sorry, no, actually, where is it here? Oh, sorry. It's actually here on the time card. Because I am the admin, I have the clock reports, right? And I also have the time card details for each one of the employees. Okay. But I can view that because again, I am logged into the POS as the admin. All right. See if there are any questions here. Okay. No questions so far here. All right, perfect. So that is as far as configuration of your employees and the utilization of the time card. The next item we want to look at is the configuration of your receipts. You can customize your receipts, okay? This one we're going to start out on the store portal, actually. Okay, we're going to go to settings, right? And we should have your receipt right up here. The reason why I go here is because you can actually add a logo to your receipt. You can do it on the terminal, but it's a lot easier to do it here because all you do is just, upload logo and then just locate it wherever it is on your computer. With the terminal, if you have a handheld, I mean, I wouldn't even know how to do that because I know how to do that on the countertops that have a USB port because you can actually connect a USB drive, but then you have to know how to look for it and so forth. So it's a lot easier to do it on the back end, all right, on the web portal. The logos have to be black and white. Remember, you're printing on a thermal paper, so it doesn't have any, grayscale or anything like that. Make sure that you don't put a lot of white space around the logo it should actually be pretty tight as far as, your margin there. Otherwise, it's going to be a tiny, little tiny logo. And make sure also that it's no larger than 1 MB. Again, they don't really print in very high fidelity, so you got to make sure of that. The other things you can add to the PO to your receipt are headers and footers. Okay, you can add as many as you want. Okay. Um, and on the terminal, you can do the same thing. You're going to switch over to the terminal. Okay. So you can look at it here. You go to settings, there in the middle towards the bottom, and then you're going to go to receipt setup. We're kind of the same thing, all right? You got your header and your footer here. So this can be used, especially your footer can be used to advertise stuff. Okay. Very easy to change. And if you change it here, it'll apply to all of your terminals. So if you want to promote something, maybe an event you're going to do this weekend, or a sale you're going to have next week, or a product you want to highlight, um, then you can go ahead and change it here, and then remove it the next day, remove it the next 5 minutes. It's very easy to do. Okay. The other thing I want to point out here is, and it's the same thing on the back end, is the tip. If you do receive tips, you need to determine where you want the tip to be written in by the customer on the receipt, and then you're going to have to adjust tips at the end of the day. Or if you want the customer to choose the tip from the screen, from the payment screen. This way it's going to print on the receipt, but they don't have to fill it out. And then this way you don't have to adjust at the end of the day because each transaction is already going to include the tip. So this is where you would activate whether you want a tip line or not. Okay. You can also choose whether you want a barcode, change the font size and the spacing, how many copies of a receipt is printed out, how many copies of a refund is printed out. You can choose whether to send an email or not. We can email PDF files of the receipts. Now, if you don't activate send email, what's going to happen is it's going to automatically pin a receipt every time you're done. Okay? If you choose to activate send email, it's going to prompt you whether you want to email it, you want to print it, or none. Okay? Um, yeah, this will actually keep count of how many items are sold. So over here, for example, you can see, right, 4 items. Or if you have any modifiers, because in this case, we're not counting the modifiers. That's why you only see 4 entries, right? But if you were counting the modifiers, you would actually say 5. Okay. Um, Picture format. Honestly, I haven't seen any difference or much of a difference in terms of if it's clear, the clarity. It looks pretty much the same. All right. Um, Now back to the tip line because this is really important, and this you can only do on the terminal. We're gonna go back to the main settings screen here. Once you determine how you want your tips to be handled, just get out of here. I'm going to go to the main screen here. Once you determine how you want your tips to be handled, you have to go here to where it says configuration. And you got to make sure that if you want your tips to be displayed on the customer display and for them to shoot, then you got to activate this. Show tip options on customer display. Of course, make sure that the customer display is turned on. And then you want to deactivate this at tips at the end of the day because again, the customer is going to be choosing per transaction, so that's already going to be recorded. If you're going to choose for the tip line to be printed and for the customer to input the tip manually on the receipt, to write it out on the receipt, then you got to make sure you disable show tip options on the customer display and you enable at tips at the end of the day. Okay? So again, just to clarify, if your tips are going to be written manually on the receipt by the customer, you got to make sure you disable show tip options on the customer display and you enable add tips at the end of the day. If your tips are to be chosen right on the screen, show tip options on the customer display, and normally you can set them up either for like a default 3 default dollar amounts, and then there's a blank one so they can input manually, or 3 default percentages, and they can still input on that fourth option dollar amount. Then you want to make sure that you disable at tips at the end of the day because each transaction is already going to include the tip. And the tip will print on the receipt. So the customer, if they take a receipt, they'll actually see their tip also displayed there. All right. Let me see if there are any questions there. Okay. All right. Um, so let's talk now a little bit about your product catalog. And for that, we're going to go to the POS to the web portal. All right. You're going to go here to catalog and you'll see that you've got different components there. You've got, of course, your products. Now, we do have a template you can utilize. If you have an existing file with your products, or if you want to create them in a file, you can actually access our template here. There's a template with data already included. Okay, so you can see how it's loaded on there. All right. Um, the complex template is for more advanced users. The complex template will include attributes like size, colors, and the combination of those. So I wouldn't recommend it if you're not that experienced. Okay. Um, Once you create your template, then there's some steps to follow. Okay. Now for each product line, you're going to see that there's also a category, for example. So you're going to have to first create the categories. All right. So before we go into products and look at the details there, let's take a look at the categories. There's also a template you can use for creating your categories. All right. Um, but we're going to look at the actual categories. Let's go here to let's see. Let's go to beverages. Okay, just so you can see that. All right. Um, you can choose a printer for your whole category, especially if you have like a kitchen printer or maybe a bar printer or something like that. You can choose for beverages automatically for everything to go to the bar printer. It's also going to print on the actual terminal, but this will allow you to place an order if you want to. Now, if you notice, there are three options for when you activate a category. Okay. Show and POS menu is on the sales menu. All right. Use for pay in, pay out is when you're going to use a category for cash transactions, strictly cash transactions. So, for example, you may create a category for lottery if you process your lotteries only in cash and separate from your products. This is how you're also going to create a category for cash drawer. So you can actually register how much you're opening the day with a cash drawer. And then at the end of the day, you can also register how much you're taking out of the cash drawer. And you'll see that with your end of day report. You'll be able to verify how much you received in cash transactions. And that's got to be the difference between how much you put in at the beginning of the day and how much you pay out at the end of the day. All right. And then there's use for manual entry. This allows you to have categories when you're going to input something manually without having to input the actual product description. So you can choose a quick category like beverages, $1.99 add, and that's it. And it's going to come up in your beverages sales report as well. Okay. You can still, put a product description, but it's not going to be a requirement. All right. So just wanted to show you that with regards to categories. And when you create a category and you start adding products, you'll see that the products will be listed on here automatically, or you can just add the products here. Okay. Okay. And then you'll also be able to determine whether this whole category is a restricted age category, and then you can establish what age for the operator and for the actual customer. Okay, so we're gonna get out of here. Okay. So first you're gonna create your categories and upload your categories, and then we're gonna take a look at your products. Okay. All right. So I mentioned I wanted to share with you some products or some functions that are going to be um, industry specific. All right. So the first one I want to share with you is going to be for maybe anybody that sells tobacco. Okay. We're going to go to cigarettes. Normally, you also sell vape pens there. And what happens is with vape pens, if you're not familiar, they come in multiple sizes and flavors, right? Contents and flavors. Okay. Um, so what happens is you can actually manage that instead of having to create one product for each combination, you can actually create the base product and then add the attributes, which in this case, I've got two sizes, the 2 ounce and the 4 ounce, and four flavors, grape, bubblegum, mint, and chocolate, and then create the combinations right then and there, okay, within the same product. So instead of having to create 8 different product profiles, you create one and you do the combination of the attributes to create each individual combination. You can set your inventory quantity for each one of them. You can set your pricing for each one of them. You can be alerted when you get to a certain level, and you can establish a threshold. And you'll notice that they've got two barcode fields, a GTIN and a SKU. Those are both active. So this was designed so that if you have two vendors that provide you with the same product, but they do so with different barcodes, you don't have to create two separate profiles. You create a single profile, add each barcode, and you'll be able to manage them as a single product. and either one of them will call up the proper product. So in this case, I don't have a barcode for any of those combinations. I just have like the main barcode for the product in case that they all have the same barcode. What happens is when you scan it, it'll prompt you for which size and flavor you want, and that's what's going to be added. Okay. Let's take a look at some of the other fields that are on here as well. Of course, you got your name, the product name here, your category, um, the tax category, which again can be managed or can be assigned depending on the product. You can create a product that's tax exempt, and then you can choose how you're going to track it. In this case, we're tracking inventory by the attributes, right? But you could say, no, I want to track it by the item itself, or I don't want to track it at all. Okay. The other thing is you can choose what kind of price you're going to charge. I didn't put a price here, okay? But I could actually choose for it to be variable. And if it is variable, then it's going to prompt me how much that price will be. I can also place a cost over here. And of course, you've got the two barcode fields. I don't have any stock quantity here because I'm managing that through the attribute combination. All right. And then below that, you can select whether you're going to add modifiers like ingredients and things like that. Now, I'll go over that in a second, but with modifiers, we also create modifier groups. So if you have multiple modifiers that are assigned to different products, the same modifiers, you don't have to go and add one by one. You just group those into a single group and then go ahead and assign the whole group to each one of the products. Okay. Um, you can sell by weight. Okay. Short name is just be another way to call it. You can sell by weight. We do have integrated scale. So if you choose to sell by weight, it'll actually take the value right off the scale. Okay. You can choose to disable an item from the POS, or maybe you enable it on the POS because it's an ingredient, but you don't want it to show on the sales menu. You can choose whether the item is going to be discount exempt or upcharge exempt. And then, of course, whether the item is going to be EBT eligible. And then here you can actually assign age restriction individually for the product. Okay. And a couple other things I want to show you here. You can add a picture so it's easier for the operator to see. Again, low res, maybe 1 MB. You can choose the product to, utilize any other printer. We've got multiple printers set up for this network. Okay. And we're not going to use breakdown packaging here, but we are going to use it somewhere else. All right. So let me see if there's any questions here. All right, good. All right. So I'm going to change to a different kind of product so I can show you that breakdown packaging. Oh, sorry, actually alcohol. In some cases, you may have like, uh, products like beer that will come in cases, six packs, and you may also want to sell individually, right? That's the case here for this breakdown packaging that you just saw. So Budweiser beer is a really good example because that comes in the rings, and really the only barcode you find is on the can. So it doesn't have different barcodes, right? So instead of having to create a product for when it's individual, a product when it's a six pack, or a product when it's a case, you create the base product here, which would be the individual, right? Budweiser beer, it's alcohol. It is tax standard. I don't have an alcohol tax displayed, right? The price for the individual can is $3. It cost me 99 cents. This is the barcode that's on the can. I got a low quantity threshold of 6, and right now I've got 57 in stock. All right. I'm not using any modifiers. It does show up on the menu. It is POS enabled. It's not EBT eligible or discount upcharge exempt, obviously. And it is age restricted products, right? So what I do is if I want to go ahead and use six packs and cases, I'll go to breakdown and packaging and I'll create the packages that it comes with. Could be a six pack, could be a case, which has 24, right? Six pack that has 6 units. Right now I've got 3 and 7 of these. If I do have a different barcode for each one of these or two different barcodes, I would put them here. Okay. I am able to establish my low quantity threshold, the price, of course, for the package, and even the cost. Okay. Now, at the top here, you can see that I've got 57 units, right? I showed you on the main screen. But if I were to break down 3 6 packs and 7 cases, I would have a total of 243 single units if I wanted to. If I do run low on, my single units, then I'll come in here and I'll determine, all right, what do I want to break? I want to break a six pack or a case, and I'll choose what I want to break down. how many do I want to break down? It'll automatically convert it to this. It's not going to change this total amount, of course, because I have the same number of units, but it is going to change how many singles I have on hand. All right. So again, this is a feature that's specifically designed for liquor stores, convenience stores, anybody that sells stuff that comes in maybe six packs, cases, but individual. I've seen it also being utilized in fireworks retailers. Okay. They'll get maybe a case of M80s, but they want to sell it in threes and want to sell it singles. So that's also a case. Uh, that's also the case. Let me see, make sure that you guys are viewing perfect. Okay. And you can do the same thing on the terminal. Oh, I've probably been knocked off. Yeah. Let me show you the same two things that I just showed you before. I want to show you these on the terminal as well. Okay. Now you don't have things like, of course, the template on the terminal. Obviously, that's on the back end. All right, but I just want to show you that on the terminal itself. So sorry, let me log in here, connect back to my A77. Okay, and then do the air viewer. Okay. All right. So let me zoom in so you can see it a little better once it comes up. Okay, come on. Here we go. So on the terminal, you're going to go to inventory, right? You're going to go to, again, categories, right? If I go to which would beverages, you see that I've got my display, my use for pay in, pay out for manual entry, restricted age, right? It's a little bit more more limited than what you got on the back end. If I go to products, all right, I'm gonna first, whoop, actually I have the products. I've got the vape pen right here. You can see all the same stuff that you see on the back end, right? Tax exempt, variable price, discount, all that stuff. And then I got the attributes right here. I've got my attribute and attribute combinations on the bottom. Okay. So you can create it here as well. All right. And then let's look for the Budweiser. Search name. Just going to put Bud in here. Should find it with that. And I can go to breakdown packaging and you've got the same stuff here. All right. 57, 43, 243. SKU, price, cost, stock quantity. And I can break down if I needed to break down how many units. So again, you can do pretty much everything on both ends, both the web portal and on the POS. Of course, you can only run a transaction on the POS though, not on the web portal. All right. I want to go back here because I want to show you, well, you know what? Show you here first, and then I'll show you that we're going to go back to inventory and products. Another feature that we've added is the ability to add modifiers or ingredients or automatically. Okay, and a good case for this is especially out west. I think um, you're required to get a deposit on pretty much any drink that you sell. Okay, so you have the ability to add those deposits automatically. So in the case of the Perrier bottle, right? You go to General, and then you're going to go to More, and we're going to add the bottle deposit 10 cents. Okay. You see that's added here as an item. And that's added automatically. Okay. If I go to the Pepsi and I go to more, now you see that the bottle deposit for the Pepsi is 5 cents. So this way the operator doesn't have to remember to add the item and how much do I need to add depending on, what kind of a deposit. Okay. You can use these also for like ingredients, like a good example is a hot dog. Your hot dog is not packaged with the bun and the sausage in one. So you can't really track inventory by hot dog. You have to track inventory by the bun and the sausage. So you can choose to automatically add a bun and a sausage every time you bring up a hot dog. And this way it'll keep track of those items. So let me show you on the back end here what that will look like. We're going to go to beverages. Okay. Search. And then you can see here the Perrier, you got your modifiers, you got the bottle deposit. Okay. Now, on the actual bottle deposit or the hot dog, like I said, this one and the sausage, those are what's known as a modifier. Okay, so we're gonna go to all here. Okay, and we're gonna look for the modifiers. You're gonna have a modifier for the bun, the sausage, the 5 cent, the 10 cent deposit. Let me show you here. So here's a 10 cent deposit, just so you can see what it looks like. So I create this 10 cent deposit, right? It is tax exempt. It's not taxed, or it could be taxed. In this case, actually, it is taxed. I don't track inventory for this. It's 10 cents, fixed price. And I say do not prompt and go ahead and add one automatically. That's how you configure it. Okay. Now, I actually should not have it show on the POS menu because I don't sell, the 10 cent deposit. Okay. So that's actually not configured appropriately on here. Okay. And then on the POS side, again, you can go to search. You can look for, well, I need to make them all. And then I would look for, I believe it would be deposit. I just put DEP. So you got the 10 cent and the 5 cent deposit. Somebody changed it to 6. Okay. The same thing. Price you charge. Don't track inventory. And then you go to more. You say it is a modifier. Do not prompt. Oop, sorry. I was not sharing that with you. So what I did here is, let me get out of here. I went to inventory or products, did a search, and I put deposit or DEP for the name. So all the deposits came up, and then I went to the 10 cent one, and I went to more, and you see it says modifier, do not prompt, and the quantity is 1. Okay. So it's kind of the same thing. But I did want to show you also then on the bun and the sausage. Let's go ahead and put bun here. Okay. The same thing. It's a modifier, right? Do not prompt and 1. So when you add it to the hot dog, whoop, search and type in dog here, you'll see that the hot dog has automatically a bun and a sausage. See? Here we go. Okay. So again, those are features that are industry specific, right? But they can be utilized for multiple applications, such as the bottle deposit, ingredients, and things like that. Okay. So we're going to go back to catalog. And we're going to move on to this section here, which is refund reason category. So we created this so that especially if you do a lot of refunds or you receive a lot of returns, so you can track why things are being returned. You create the categories and then you choose those as you run a refund. It's going to prompt you why. Just like the item is broken. And whenever you process a refund in our system, it's always going to prompt you whether you want to add the item back to inventory or not. Okay. All right. So I do see a question here. What electronic payment processors do we accept? Apple. All right. So, Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, those are all touchless or tap and pay. So yes, the systems do accept that. Now, these are going to be more determined by the actual hardware than by our software. Okay, since it's controlled by the actual payment device. All right. So I think all of our terminals are accepting any one of those touchless forms of payment. Venmo and Cash App, you can create the form of payment for Venmo and Cash App just so you can register it on the system. But it's not actually going to process on the terminal. You're still going to need to use the app in order to actually process that. So let me show you on the terminal itself. If we go to settings and then we go to pay method, you see that I've got Venmo and Cash App on here. Okay. So when you go to pay, it's going to be one of the options. But again, you need to process it on your app, on your phone, whatever device you utilize to process any one of those payments. Now, what is this any good for if it doesn't process it? Well, it's good because then at the end of the month, you can pull on the POS, all right, how much did I collect on Venmo? Oh, I collected $850. You can go to your Venmo app and look at, okay, what is this registering for the month? Oh, 870. Wait, I'm missing 20 or 830. Wait, you know. So it's really meant more for control rather than processing. All right. So it doesn't process the actual Venmo or Cash App. It just registers that form of payment. And then this way it'll be easier for you to manage that. Okay. All right. All right. Thanks for the question. That's a really good question there. All right. And to establish that, you can do it on both. And let's go over here so I can show you that there. Uh, okay. Make sure you're looking at the right screen. Yes. Okay. So forms of payment, you would go here to where do we have settings, payment methods at checkout, right? You can add new and then choose whatever name you want for it. Okay. Um, you can choose if that form of payment supports cash discount as well. Okay. Or if you want to do it on the terminal, right? I'm gonna go back here real quick. Go back to pay method. You can go to edit here where it says custom payment method and add whatever other form of payment you want. But you got to make sure that once you add it, you go back to this screen and it has a check mark. Okay. It's got to have a check mark for it to be active. If you add it on the terminal, it doesn't automatically activate it. You have to add it and then activate it here. If you add it on the back end, yes, you'll be able to actually choose whether, it's a custom method or not and whether you want it active or not. But remember, if you do it on the back end and you want it to immediately take effect on the terminal, you got to go back to the terminal and do manual sync. Remember, go to settings, go to cloud, go to settings here, go to cloud, and then sync manually. Okay. Otherwise, you're gonna have to wait for whatever time frame you established for the machine to synchronize automatically. Okay. Good question. Good question. All right. So going back to the catalog here. And the refund reason, like I said, when you process a refund, it's going to prompt you the reason why, and then it's going to prompt you whether you want to add it back to inventory or not. Okay. The other thing I want to show you here is a modifier group. So as I said before, when you create a modifier in our system, if you got multiple modifiers that all are assigned to multiple products, you can just group these under a modifier group and then assign the whole modifier group to each product. And you can see, the products that are within each modifier group here. Okay. Before you create or add an attribute to a product, you also have to create the attribute here. Now, you don't have to create the values, but you can. And what I mean by that is, let's say you create an attribute called pant size. Okay. You can add already the value for the pant size. It could be small, medium, large. So when you add that attribute pant size to a product, it's going to bring those three values with it. Now, if you don't want to utilize all of the values that attribute has, you can delete any one of these for a specific product. Okay. And then you can also set the price. And if you want to do inventory and all that stuff, you can also track inventory by creating the combination for each one. Okay. And again, you'll be able to do the same thing on the terminal. If you go to inventory and then attributes, you can create your attributes there. Okay. Same thing. You have pant size here. It gives you, the values and all of that. All right. So you can create that in either one. All right. So that's with regards to catalog. Okay. Your products. Let's talk a little bit about printers. If you want to do additional printers. Now, again, most terminals have a built-in printer, which you'll be able to use to ring somebody up and then provide a receipt. You know what? I've actually got 1:59 p.m. Eastern time. Why don't we go ahead and do that 5 minute break? Okay. Got 1:59. We'll just come back at 2:05. All right. We'll go on break for now. Sí.
Tu varita para descongelar. Ahí nos vamos a echar un bañito.
Ese un mañito. Estaba tomando un descansito aquí. Ya voy a seguir. Amor, hay que buscar el cloro.
Sí,
Está
pero
mejor, pero. ¡Ah!
exacto. Antojado. Que no, que para qué los iba a dejar en el gimnasio y después buscar. Le digo, pero es que me están interrumpiendo mi plan. Pero dije, bueno, nada, me echo un baño y compraré algunas cositas en el cons. No, se puso como el propio berrinchudo.
Sí.
Ay,
Oh, all right. I thought I was on mute, but I guess I wasn't. All right, so we're going back to here. Let me go ahead and share my other screen here. Well, first of all, let me make sure that I'm not logged off. I am logged off. Okay. Well, so next we're going to look at your external printers. All right. Again, I was saying that the system comes with built-in printers. Okay. So almost all the printers have, all of the terminals have a built-in printer. But it does also support uh, network printers and different kind of printers as well. I want to share that with you. Okay. So set up your printers. We can do it either on the terminal or we can do it on the web portal. All right. So I'm going to show you on the terminal first. Okay. Go ahead and pull this up and let me go ahead and share the screen here. Okay. Stop the share and I want to share what I was sharing before. Okay, here we go. And let me zoom in. All right. So first of all, your standard kitchen printer. You go to settings, you go to printer setup, and then your standard, it's a network printer. So for a kitchen printer to work with our system, it has to be connected to the same network, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, as your terminals. It would not work if they're on a separate network. And the reason why is it relies on the IP address. So if you're not familiar with the IP address, it's an identifier of each device within the network. So it knows which device it wants to talk to. All right. So it has to be connected to the same network. Again, either Wi-Fi or Ethernet. So if you have a Wi-Fi router and you have an Ethernet printer, you got to make sure that that Wi-Fi router also has Ethernet ports, actual cable ports that you can connect to the printer, and then it'll actually work. Okay, so location is going to be important, right? You want to make sure that your Wi-Fi router is not too far away from your printer if you're going to use Ethernet, because if not, you're going to have to do a very long cable. Okay. Now, if your printer is a Wi-Fi printer, and there are some kitchen printers that are Wi-Fi printers, it'll work. Any printer that utilizes the Epson printing protocol, which is what you see here, ESC/POS, will work. Okay. When you establish them, you got to make sure also that your Ethernet, your IP address is not dynamic, that it's fixed, it's static, which means that every time you turn off your router and you turn it on, or anything like that happens, or you turn off your printer and you turn it on, it has the same exact IP address. If the IP address is different, if it varies, you're gonna have to come in here and reconfigure to the different address. So to avoid having to do that, you want to make sure that your IP address is static and not dynamic. Okay. Make sure you're looking at the right stuff here. Yes, you are. Okay. That's the first thing. The port's always going to be 9100. Okay. You can test whether it connects or not. All right. You do ping first and then you do a connection test. Ping will just say, yes, it's on the same network. We can talk to each other. Connection test, then it's going to actually print something that says like printer one or whatever name you put on there on the actual printer. Okay. Now, if you want to use the printer only for your kitchen orders, you don't want it to print out like the full receipt with the price, the header, the footer, and all that stuff, then you want to make sure it does not print the local transaction. Print cash drawer, I mean, that's if you're using an external printer for your POS. That's out like on the counter. So you don't have to do that here. Well, I don't know because again, because all of the or most of the terminals come with a built-in printer, that's not really something that we utilize much. We put it on there just in case. Because we do have, like there's a device called a PAX Ellis or Elise that does come with a detached printer. So you can use the printer every time it prints out, then it'll go ahead and open up the cash drawer. All right. And then you have the ability, if you wanted to, in the remote printer to print the report. But again, you can just use the internal printer that's on each one of the terminals. Okay. So this is your typical setting for a kitchen printer or a bar printer. Okay. That's one type of printer. Okay. Another type of printer is the KDS, the kitchen display system. So we do work with the KDS. It's kind of I'm going to say, I call it basic because it doesn't have a bump bar, but it is a touch screen device. So you're able to configure, three different color so that you can see how long each order has been taken, blue, yellow, red. And you can configure how long or how many minutes it changes colors. Okay. It's water resistant and heat resistant, but it is touchscreen. So once you're done with the order, you tap it, it goes away. And if you need to recall it, there's a recall button, and you'll be able to recall the order as well. All right, but it does not have a bump bar. I just wanted to let you know that. All right. Um, and this is pretty much your typical setting for the KDS. The third type of printer I want to bring up is a label printer. So we do work with the Brother QL810W label printer. Okay. Now this one can be connected either directly to a USB port on a terminal, or it can be network based as well. Either one. Okay. USB or network. Okay. If it's network, again, you have to put the IP address and so forth. If it's USB, great, because then you'll be able to connect it to this. And again, a label printer is not something that you use regularly. You only use it to print your labels. All right. Now, the nice thing about this printer is that it prints labels in four different sizes. So you have small labels like about a square inch, a little bit bigger than a square inch. You have big labels like 3 inch by 4 inch, and you also have a label that's the size of what you would normally use for your shelves. So you can actually print your shelves. All right. And I'll show you, this is just to set up the printer, but to print stuff, I'll show you how you configure that stuff. All right. Um, so I wanted to show you this on the terminal because I feel like on the terminal it's a lot easier, but you can also go to the store portal, right? And go to your, where is it? Here, settings, printers. And you kind of do the same stuff. Oh, shoot. Sorry. I guess it's going to knock me out every once in a while. And I guess during that 5 minute break, let me log back in. Okay, and then we look for the store, Micromart, and log into that store there. All right, so here you go to your settings, and again, this has not been rolled out to your production screen yet. So this is going to be under, there's a section called POS and then POS settings, and you'll see it's got printers there. Okay, but it kind of works the same way. You got your printers here. You want to add your label printer. You got same stuff here. This will look pretty much the same way. Okay. Make sure there's no questions here about the printers. Okay. All right, we're good to go there. Let's take a look at, and we're almost done with all of the configuration here. Okay, so we did look at payment methods, but let's just kind of review very quickly here. Um, Again, we go to here and we go to payment methods of checkout. Okay, so for example, if you set your credit card payment method here, okay, you can edit this stuff. It is active or not active. Support cash discount. Well, actually, no, you can't use support cash discount on credit. So we're going to be changing that for our next update. Okay. You should only support cash discount for checks and cash. All right. Everything else, again, should be your regular price if you're going to be using cash discounting. Um, on the terminal itself, you go to settings, right? And then you go to pay method like I showed you before. And all you can do here is pretty much select whatever you've activated on the back end. And as you can see, here it is updated. You can only do cash discount, right? For checks. You can't do cash discount for anything else. Okay, I don't have cash discount enabled right now, so that's why I can't enable it for checks. All right. All right, so those are the payment methods. Let's talk a little bit about loyalty points. Okay, the loyalty program. All right, and for that, we're going to go to the store portal. This is where you'll need to configure it. You need to go to settings. Um, and this will be under a section, what you'll see now in production. We're about to roll this out to production anyway. But this will be under the section at the bottom where it says, I think it actually is labeled settings, POS settings. So the way that you configure your loyalty points here is you will choose how many points are earned, all right, by a sale. So you can do, 75 cents, 1 point, 10 points, 15 points, whatever you want, or a dollar. You can set whatever price here and whatever value here. Okay. That's to generate points. To actually redeem, you can choose, okay, each point is worth what, 20 cents, 50 cents, whatever you want on there. And then on top of that, you can actually establish a minimum threshold that the merchant will need to reach before they can actually start redeeming their points. Now, once that the merchants have exceeded that threshold, okay, they're going to be able to redeem even if they go below the threshold again. Okay, it's only a one-time activation. All right. So just to make that clear. So this is the only place where you can configure your loyalty points. You can't do it on the terminal itself. On the terminal, you can actually utilize the terminal to collect payment on with using the loyalty points. You can actually also look at the customer profile on the terminal. You got a customer and say, normally I use this guy called testing guy here, and you can go to account. You can look at your loyalty points there. You can look at your transactions and everything. Okay. You can even make adjustments. See, I made an adjustment here yesterday of um of 21 points. It'll say, yeah, 2 days ago actually, of 21 points. All right. So that's the loyalty points. Gift cards. Let's talk a little bit about your gift cards here. Okay. So the system does come with built-in gift cards. Um, they are barcode-based gift cards. Okay. So they're not, a swipe, magnetic stripe, or anything like that. It's a barcode. It can be generated virtually, where the customer receives an email with a gift card, or if you wanted to, print it on a label, stick it onto, I don't know, something, certificate or something like that, or if you want to pre-print, um, you know, um, little cards with the gift cards on there, you can also do that as well. Okay. If you need to do that, we don't do the printing for you. Contact again your processor, your agent, so that they can actually contact a vendor of gift cards. We can provide you with the numbers of. You need 2,000 numbers, for example. Okay. If you're using gift card, virtual gift cards, to say somebody forgot their card, you can look up by their name as well. Okay. Do it here on the back end. All right. You can also export your whole gift card database just to see what you got, your transactions, your balance details, and things like that, both PDF and Excel. All right, so you can look at that as well. All right. Okay, so those are the gift cards. On the POS, you're going to be able to recharge a gift card. All right, so you would go to the same customer function here on the main screen, then you go to gift card, and then you'll be able to enter the gift card here and do the what the value will be. Okay. All right. Pay in, pay out. So this is as I mentioned, something that you would utilize for cash transactions. So for example, in my case, I've got it set to cash drawer, tips, and lottery and bottle deposit. Okay, so what you would do is, for example, with a cashier, you go to beginning of the day, pay in, you put how much money you actually got in the cash drawer. End of the day, you choose pay out and put how much money you're collecting from the cash drawer. All right, and then you'll see on the reports when we get to the report section how that would be displayed there. All right. Um, let's talk a little bit about discounts and pricing. All right, so there's a tool on the terminal that's not on the back end, which allows you to modify pricing. And this is under the maintenance screen here. Okay. Let's verify there's no questions here. All right. So it's called a global price change. This allows you to choose to change pricing at various levels. You can do it for the whole inventory. You can do it for specific category or specific items. And then you can do it in various ways. You can choose to adjust price, which allows you to actually set the dollar amount for the item, increase or decrease by percentage, or increase by dollar amount. So the difference between setting the price and increase by dollar amount is that, you want these items to cost $3.99, or you want these items to increase by $1. That's the difference there. If you are using the cost, or if you're inputting the cost of the items onto the system, okay, then you can either increase the profit by percentage, or increase the gross margin by percentage. And then the third form of price change would be price rounding, which you can round the price up to either 0.95, 0.99, or 00, or round the price down to 0.95, 0.99, or 00. Okay. It's a really good tool for if you need to change pricing rapidly. Okay. The other item I want to discuss is your special pricing. Okay. We're going to do it here on the terminal only, but you can do it also on the back end. All right. If you go to here, SharePoint, and you go to discount, You got your special pricing here as well. Okay. So going back to the terminal, this is for sales. And the way that it works is that you've got, three forms of sales. Your standard sales, which is sales pricing, which starts on a specific date and time, ends at a specific date and time. You can either establish a price or a percentage of a discount. Bulk pricing, which is the second one there, which would be kind of a wholesale discount. You can choose how many items, and you can do either the price or the percent off. So you say 10 items, I'll give you 10% off. Or you can even use it for something like BOGO, where, you say two items will be at 50% off, and then you can use this switch here where it resets if you exceed the threshold. So if you're doing it for two items at 50% off, the third item will come in at the regular price. And then the third form of a sale discount would be time-based, which is like regular, weekly. Maybe you want to set a sale on Fridays on your milk because Saturdays you get the new shipment. This way you get to move your milk around. Okay, so three forms in which you can conduct sales, and again, you can do it also on the back end. I think the main advantage if you want to do it on the back end is that if you want to add products, you can actually add a whole slew of products. While on the terminal, you have to go one product at a time. Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at another form of discount, and again, we're going to go back to the terminal. This is what's called a price level discount, which is discounts you give to special groups like veterans, for example. So this type of a discount gives you can choose. It's known as a composite discount because you can actually apply different forms of discount depending on the circumstance. In this case, I've got certain categories that provide 10% discount for veterans. But if they spend more than $100, from $100 to $1,000, then I'll give them 15% off on everything. Okay. Now, for somebody to receive this type of a discount, they have to be registered in the customer database. Okay. Um, so you can check when they're checking out, you can register them right then and there. It only requires a first name. And then you'll see that, the different options for price level discounts. Okay. All right. So those are the discounts. Um, we do work with cash discount and upcharge, but it depends on who your processor is, whether they accept that or not. Okay. This is a way for you to pass on fees, your credit card fees to your customers. But the industry is kind of strict on how you can do that. If you choose to do cash discount, well, again, you can only change the price if it's going to be cash payment. Now, the system will automatically, you can choose whether you want to input your prices in cash or in credit, and it'll do the calculation for the other price. When you do activate cash discount on our system, it'll show the two prices for the products as you're ringing them up. But it'll only show one price when you finish paying. Okay, so the customer is aware that there are two prices. But again, you can only give the discount, the cash discount, for cash payments or check if you want to activate that as well. Upcharge is now limited by the industry to 3%. Okay, Visa's cracking down on that, and you can't charge that on debit cards. Now, in our system, it'll do it on credit cards, but our system cannot detect automatically whether it's a credit or a debit card based on the card number. Okay, to do that, we would need to activate something that's called surcharge, which is a little different than upcharge, which is activated on the payment device end. Okay. So that it will not display the bill pricing until you choose, okay, credit card payment. They input the card, and if it is a credit card, then it'll display on the payment device the two prices. If it's not a credit card, it will not display the two prices on the payment device. Okay. If you select to do upcharge, which is the one that's established on the POS, not on the payment device, then the operator will ask, is that credit or debit? And then you'll go ahead and choose debit. If it's debit, this way it will not charge the 3% fee, and credit and it will charge a 3% fee. Okay. Just a word of caution though, we don't have any control on the way that the hardware manufacturers manage surcharge. So what happens is we've been finding that some hardware manufacturers with surcharge when they do the calculation, they'll round up. And unfortunately, that has resulted in going a little bit over the 3% limit that credit card companies place, which is it'll go to 3.01, 3.02, something like that. And they'll get funny about that. All right. For our upcharge, which again, you have to manually select whether it's credit or debit, we don't round up. Okay. So it'll never go over that 3%. So just wanted to give you that word of caution there. All right. See if we have any questions regarding that. Okay, great. Okay. Last thing I want to show you here before we go to the sales screen. Well, actually, we're going to do reporting after that, and then we'll go to the sales screen. But the other thing I want to show you here, and we're going to show you first on the portal, is how you can manage your customers. Now, our system does have a template you can use if you have an existing customer database. All right. Um, it even has, fields for points, so you can import if you have another POS that used points. You can import the accumulated points for each customer, and it also has a field for credit, so it'll show their credit limit and their outstanding balance as well. All right. And you can manage your customers from here. All right. So this testing guide, which is what I used before, I can go to loyalty here and I can modify or adjust. I can give them 13 points to kind of round them off. Okay. I can view their transactions here as well. See, I can also go to credit and see, in their account, does their balance due, the maximum credit, and you can see all the transactions here. Okay. You can do the same thing I showed you earlier on the terminal. You can go to customer here and then the same testing guy. I can go to account, look at the details. This is where I would actually, if they want to make a payment, this is where actually I would apply the payment, okay, on the terminal. So they want to pay $100. How do they want to pay it? They'll pay cash. Perfect. Okay. And then you can see it. You can print a receipt, and then you can actually see that now their balance due is $100 less. And I showed you earlier, I can actually look at the uh, the loyalty points transactions. You can even see the 13 points that I just gifted them. Okay. One thing about the customer database is, I know our POS has a lot of features. You got to keep in mind, of course, it is as far as the price point, usually, on the low end, and we feel really good about the fact that, we can provide so many features. For the database, with the customer database, you can always export it in Excel. And then if you're good with Microsoft Office, you can actually do a mail merge on Word if you wanted to email all your customers or something like that. Okay. Um, all right. So that's on the customer side. And now let's take a look at reporting. We're first going to take a look at the reporting on the terminal. Okay. So first thing I want to show you is the end of day reports. Okay. So depending on how you're set up, you could be set up to batch out automatically, or you can batch out manually by using credit card settlement. Okay. Go ahead and press that button there. Say you want to perform the end of the day batch settlement. Tips on settled transactions cannot be adjusted. So obviously, if you're going to do, your tips, you gotta adjust these first. Okay. And you would do that. You go here, you go to reports, and you would do, I believe, tip report here. Where is it? 1 second here. No, tip reports here. Thought it was here. Give me 1 second, folks. I know that. Oh, actually, you should have it here. That's why I don't have it. It's on the same end of the day, actually, but I don't have that option because I didn't take any tips. Okay, so that's why you don't have that option. But normally you have a button here that will say tip adjustments. Okay, so you go ahead and do your credit card settlement, right? And then you can see I've got $126 cash from $100 that I started. So it tells you, okay, I'll go ahead and do end of day. it should tell me how much I've done in cash, and it should match, 4 products in cash. What's going on here? Wait. Uh, refund break. Oh, because I did a refund. Okay, that's why. Okay, pay in, pay out. That's why. Yeah. I'd have to set this up again. I did this manually. If you notice, the start date is off also because I changed the date manually on here. But that's how it would work. You would first do your credit card settlement, then your end of day, and you can print the report on here. Okay. So that's one of the reports that's available. Okay. Um, Another report here, of course, you go to the report section, you got all of these available. Now, the contents of these reports are only going to include the transactions that run on this unit. Okay. And you can even do like a refund on here if you wanted to, or void, depending if it's already been batched. Okay. So, you got your, again, your tips, your reports on here. I would not recommend you, printing a lot of these reports here. It'll just print on the thermal paper. I think the reports that are on the back end are much more robust. Okay. So let me show you those real quick. All right. So first of all, you have some pre-established reports. You have your bestsellers, where you can choose your time frame here, and then you can adjust either by total sales ascending or descending, or by total units sold ascending or descending. Okay. You've got your products that are never purchased. Again, you can choose your own time frame here. Okay. You got your low stock report, which will automatically be added on here. You also have online transactions. Keep in mind that we do offer delivery services. We offer Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub integrated on the POS. So there's no need to have a separate screen or a tablet or a separate printer. No, everything's integrated on the POS. If you have multiple terminals, you'll choose which terminal you want to manage your online orders, of course. And then it allows you to have, 3 different web portals on their websites, right? DoorDash, Uber Eats, and so forth. You can have different pricing, different products, and so forth, but it's all handled through Sound POS. Nice thing about it is that then you can actually pull your online transaction report right here. Okay. But the bulk of your reports are here under transactions. And again, you'll be able to choose your time frame. You can go for the last month. Okay. Um, you can look if you've got multiple terminals. If you want to look at the transactions only on a single terminal, you put it in here. You can look at them by categories. You can even choose multiple payment methods. You can look at the actual transactions here. If you want to, reprint a receipt or re-email a receipt, you can do it here. It'll download the PDF file, right, with your configuration on there. You can look at the products that were purchased for each transaction and even look at the product profile. And then you can look at the payment information. So in this case, I took, I think, 3 forms of payment. So you are able to do multiple tenders. You can also do split payment if you wanted to. Okay. The system supports both. But the bulk of your reports are up here. You've got reports in Excel and PDF, and you have transactions, payments, categories, customer, employees, tax, tips, refund reason, even your profitability. Okay. You can choose, which report you want to download. So I want to download my transaction details in Excel, my transaction totals in Excel. You can look at your totals here. Okay. Um, and once you've chosen which report you want to look at, you're going to go to this section at the bottom labeled Import Export and look at your exports here. And that'll show whatever reports you've chosen to download. These will remain on here for the whole day. And just so you get an idea, what's the difference between a detailed and a totals report? Well, detail is going to show you, for example, in the case of transactions, it will show you what products are purchased for each transaction. Okay. Well, the totals may not have that level of detail. Okay. So just to show you the transaction details report has all the products on here. And then if you want to download your transaction totals report, that won't have any product information. That'll just have the actual transaction, financial information, and then your cumulative at the bottom. Okay. So that's really the difference, kind of the same principle for all of the other reports. Like I said, it's a lot more robust here. Um, you can, in Excel, you can also filter and sort in any which way that you want. So it's a lot better to print here, I feel, than to do it on the terminal. Okay. Okay, so those are the reports. So we can go ahead and jump into the sales screen. Now we're going to go back to the terminal. Oh, knocked me out. Did not even notice that. All right, so let me log back in. Again, if you got a countertop terminal, your screen is wide, and you can fit more things on there. So the sales screen will look a little bit different than on the handheld. All right. So let me go ahead and open this one up and do a little bit of a zoom in, and then go to the sales screen. So the biggest difference really is when you go to the sales screen here is that on the countertop, you got the sales screen and the menus on the right-hand side, and then you have the shopping cart on the left-hand side. In this case, I need to toggle using this button because I've got a handheld device, but it looks pretty much the same way. All right. Um, First, before we ring anything up, I wanted to just kind of share with you, the functionalities, what do we got here going across the top? And again, on the countertop, you've got a lot more functions across the top. You have the same functions here, you just have to click on this button more times, all right? So the inventory button, if you're going to scan an item and it's not an inventory, it's going to prompt you whether you want to add the item to inventory or not. You can also just tap on there and add an item manually by going to add product quickly, okay? It'll ask you some of the, most of the same stuff that you find if you go to the actual inventory function, except with some things that it excludes. All right. It's a more rudimentary product addition. You can also search for a product here. You can look for part of the name. So, for example, if I wanted to pull up a hot dog or anything, I just type dog, then do search, and it'll pull anything that's got dog in it. So, dog is love, for example. I can go ahead and choose the item, and now it's going to be in my shopping cart. Okay. For the customer button, you can use it to either add a new customer. So I can go to customer, add new customer, right? It only requires a first name, and then you can choose the price level. You want to do loyalty, veterans, whatever you want. Okay. Then of course they'll get, credit. You can give them credit here as well if you're doing a refund. It's very easy to add a new customer here. Or you can look for a customer either by using part of their name or part of their phone number, like the last four digits. So if I wanted to pull up this testing guy that we've been looking at previously, I don't even have to write the whole name. I can just type, TES. Anybody that's got three letters TES in their name will come up. So I've got testing guy right here. I tap on him. I can see the testing guy's profile. And then when I choose them, they'll be listed on the left-hand side, their name, and if they get any type of a discount. In this case, it's a discount 10%. Okay. The add order button is utilized in case, let's say you want to do your own delivery instead of using, the delivery services that I mentioned before, or if you want to be able to take orders over the phone for pickup. Or maybe you have a small mom and pop restaurant that doesn't require, reservations or dining room layout, but you still want to, do dine in, for example. You just create profile for table one, table two under the customer name, and then just choose, which kind of delivery you want. You don't have to collect payment whenever you ring something up immediately. You can still, if you've got a kitchen printer, a bar printer, you can still fire stuff there, but just pressing the save button and then you can recall the order using the search order button here. So let's say that I do choose delivery for this testing guy. It's going to include their address, and it's actually going to print their address on the receipt, and the receipt's going to say delivery. Okay, so we'll continue with sale. Otherwise, I could have pressed save. It would wipe off the screen, clear it up for the next order, and send everything to the respective printers. Okay. The clear button will clear off your shopping cart and clear off any customer that you've chosen. Okay, we're going to go to the next set of commands here. Search orders will normally pull up any orders that are pending first or the last orders that were done on this terminal. But if you do have pending orders that are open on any terminal, those are going to take precedence. Those are going to show up here. Okay. It doesn't matter whether this was the terminal where they were rung up on. Okay. You can also run a refund on any terminal. Because if you don't find the transaction here, you can just go to filter and get more specific. You can say, all right, I want to, any delivery order or pickup order, or I want any order that's pending, and I want to see any pending orders for the last 3 months. You do search, and it'll only show your pending orders here. Okay. The hold order button is a little bit different because, you know, orders that are saved under the delivery, pickup, dine in, those orders that are pending will not drop off the system until you decide to delete them or cancel them. The hold orders is a little different because these are meant more for somebody who's at the cash register, they've been rung up, and then when they go to pay, oh, I forgot my water in the car, and you have a long line behind them. So you just go to hold orders, put their name on there, save it. It'll clear off the shopping cart so you can ring up the next customer. And then when that customer comes back, you'll press the same button and look them up under whatever you saved. And if they don't come back, the held orders actually fall off at the end of the day. So that's why it's a little different. The other orders will remain in the system until you cancel them manually. The held orders will actually fall off automatically. Okay. Um, the discount button here. So this is so you can apply a discount manually. Now this discount button will apply to everything that's in the shopping cart. Okay, so say I choose, dog is love like before. I choose eggs. I choose Snickers bar. All right, so I've got these three items on here. And then I choose, all right, let me give them a discount. I'm going to give them 10% off. You can either do a percentage off or you can do dollar amount. So it applies 10% off to the whole shopping cart. You'll see it on the bottom left. You'll see how much the person is saving. Okay. But there's another type of discount, which is a single line item discount. So I'm going to go back to groceries. I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to give you a discount on the potato chips. So I'll go ahead and ring up the potato chip and I'll slide it to the left and press that percentage button. Again, I can apply either percentage off or dollar off. And I'll say, yeah, I'm going to give them 25% off on the potato chip. Now that discount will only apply to that line. You're still getting 10% off overall, so it includes even the potato chips there. But if I only want to give a discount for one item, I can actually apply that line item discount. As a matter of fact, our system can be so detailed that if you add a second potato chip after you've applied the discount, it'll actually segregate it to a second line. Now you could have added, the potato chip, the two potato chips together, and then applied the 25% off together. But if you just want to give them a discount on one of the potato chips, that's the way that you would do it. Okay, it doesn't apply anything else. Okay. All right. The last item there is the manual entry, which allows you, like I said before, you can create different categories just for manual entry. They can either be the same categories that you've got on your sales screen, or they can be unique categories. So I can say beverages, $1.99, add product. And if I go to the shopping cart, you'll see that beverages is used as the item description. Now I can choose beverages, put Pepsi or Coke on there, then put $1.99 and add product, and it'll actually use Coke as the item description. But it'll still be categorized on the beverages. So when you pull your beverages report, it'll be listed on there. Okay. A couple more functions on here. The vendors can create their own coupons, so you can create your own coupons if you wanted to. You can reprint a receipt. You can process a refund, or you can even do an exchange. And the way that that's done is you would ring up the new item that the customer wants, then you would press this refund button. You would have to have your transaction number, so they'd have to have the receipt. You pull it up. You can choose what you want to refund, whether it's the whole purchase, whether it's a single line, or whether it's a single item if you've got multiple of the same items. You can choose any one of those. And it'll discount that from the new purchase. And then, of course, you've got your cash drawer opening, so you can open it manually. You can do tax exemption, and it'll actually show you by tax rate, not tax category, but tax rate. And then, of course, you can lock your screen. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Okay. So that's in terms of functions, right? Beginning of the session, I showed you that for let's say for vape pens, you can actually choose if each combination of size and flavor has its own barcode, you just scan it and it goes into the shopping cart. If not, you scan it and it has the same number, or you tap on it. Well, first of all, it's going to prompt me for my ID, but now it's going to ask me to choose the size and the flavor. Okay, submit that, and then that's what you're going to see on here. You can use it for various things. Like, for example, I go to the gift shop here. Uh, I can choose the shirt. It's going to prompt me, okay, size small, medium, large. I can even add pricing if I choose extra large. I'm going to add an extra $10. Okay. I also showed you for the packaging, right? For the packaging, it's a little different because you actually, where was it? Alcohol here. For the packaging, it does create its own separate items. So you got the Budweiser's beer six pack, the case, and the individual. Now, if it has a single barcode and you scan it, it's going to prompt you whether you're selling an individual, a six pack, or a case. Okay, it'll do that automatically. All right. The other thing that I showed you was for automatically adding items like bottle deposits. So we'll go to beverages, we'll add a Perrier, and we add a Pepsi. And when you go to the shopping cart, you'll see them both there, right? You got the 10-cent deposit for the Perrier and the 5-cent deposit for the Pepsi, even though it's 6 cents. I got to correct that. All right. So I wanted to show you that functionality there. Okay. You know what? Before we ring this up, I'm actually going to avoid this. I forgot to show you a couple of things real quick under maintenance here. The first thing is the menu order. You can actually modify how you want your menu displayed. First in categories, I can say, you know what? I want alcohol to be my first category. Just drag and drop and you save that. And then I can actually go to products and say, all right, now let's see. Under alcohol, I want, let's see, what have we got here? I want the Budweiser beer to be one of the first guys here. Okay. So I go here. Now again, I don't have a very broad screen, but I'll drag and drop here. And that's first. Then I want the Budweiser, what is it? Six pack. I think it's here. And I can just drag and drop here. Okay. And then the case would be here. Okay. And I'm going to put it right under here. Then I'll save that. And now it'll be organized differently when we go to the sales screen. Okay, so first of all, you see alcohol is at the top. We got the Budweiser beer, the six pack, and the actually put six pack case instead of Budweiser case on here. Okay, but you can actually organize your menu manually that way. The other thing I want to show you is under the same maintenance screen, which I forgot, is the label printing configuration. So you can choose to print your whole inventory, specific categories, specific items, and then you can choose if you are using dual pricing, you can choose, to display both prices, and you can also choose which barcode you want to print on that label in particular. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the sales screen. We're on the final stage here. We're gonna go ahead and bring a couple of things up here: the eggs, the chips, the Perrier bottle, and the Pepsi. Okay. And we're gonna go to pay. Right. One thing that we recently added was the ability to split payments. Okay. So you can split, let's see, in two parts. Okay. Go to detail, right? I'm going to cancel that split payment there. I'm going to go back here, split. I can also choose by amount. Okay. So I'm going to pay $5 for one and then whatever in the other. Now you don't actually have to do it that way. You can actually just go, if you wanted to, let me show you this way. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my testing guy customer again, ING testing guy. Okay. And I pull them up because I want to be able to have other options for payments, right? So for example, the testing guy, I have loyalty. So it shows me how many points I've got and what I would need to make this purchase. I have 8,200 points. Or if I want to use my account credit, it shows me on here, okay, I've got $1,000 credit, I've got 649 available, I can definitely cover this. Or I can use, Venmo, Cash App, whatever I want on there. So if I wanted to do multiple forms of payment without having to print like separate receipts, because that's what the split payment is really for, okay? Oh, detail here. Um, so I can just say, all right, let me go ahead and charge $3 onto my loyalty points. Let me go ahead and charge um, $5 into my credit account, and I'll go ahead and pay the difference in Venmo. Okay, and then I can print a single receipt or email or do both. Okay, with that transaction. So it does allow you to, split tickets if you wanted to, in case you want to print like two receipts and provide the receipts. Um, or if you wanted to as well, you can also just do multiple tenders. Okay. So we got one more question here, and then we're going to go ahead and sign off. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. And we're actually done. So if you have any other questions, of course, you can shoot me an email address, email. My address is caesarrivas@soundpayments.com. Let me just share that screen here real quick. So caesar.r@soundpayments.com. And you are more than welcome to shoot me an email if you have any questions, all right? So thank you very much and have a great day.